time now for Scoop, our weekly conversation on international media. We look at who shapes a narrative and explore journalistic ethics. With trust in the press at a nadir, it's a critical eye on a critical profession. A $20 billion lawsuit filed by the U.S. President Donald Trump and a looming merger has many press advocates worried about editorial freedom in America. Now, in April, Bill Owens said he would resign as executive producer of CBS's 60 Minutes, citing encroachments on his journalistic independence. Owens was only the third EP to run the show during its 57-year history. 60 Minutes is a primetime news show that became one of the most successful programs in broadcast history. The thought of it losing its independence was so shocking that it even became fodder for late-night comedians.
And I believe it. I mean, I don't know if you saw 60 Minutes on Sunday night, but their new show, Open, it seems a little off.
I'm Leslie Stahl.
I'm Bill Whitaker.
I'm Anderson Cooper.
I'm Chuck Norris.
I'm God, Guns, and Gary, 36.
I'm the guy who Lauren Boebert gave a hand to in the theater.
And I'm the QAnon shaman. These stories and more tonight on 60 Minutes.
But it was serious news. The New Yorker's headline, Trump's playbook to cripple 60 Minutes and the press. The Guardian called it a stunning battle for the soul of U.S. media. Now Owens discouraged staff from quitting in protest, but in the following week, they paid tribute to their boss.
Bill was with CBS News nearly 40 years, 26 years at 60 Minutes. He covered the world, covered combat, the White House. His was a quest to open minds, not close them. But our parent company, Paramount, is trying to complete a merger. The Trump administration must approve it. Bill felt he lost the independence that honest journalism requires. No one here is happy about it. But in resigning, Bill proved one thing. He was the right person to lead 60 Minutes all along.
That was 60 Minutes host Scott Pelley castigating his employer rather measuredly. 1 month later, he struck a different tone, tearing into Trump in a fiery commencement speech at Wake Forest University.
Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts. The fear to speak in America.
Conservative media came in hard, from pundits to news programs. Fox News' headline after Pelley's speech called him a fraud and a liar. The New York Post said angry and unhinged, though both outlets were merely quoting random users on X. Here's a couple of talking heads, though, on America's most watched news network.
They've tried to censor conservatives for a very long time. They've tried to censor normal people, and it hasn't worked. And now we've got our voice out there. We don't like what the liberal media are offering. The jig is up, and they're screaming about it, even at what is supposed to be a joyous event.
You know, when I hear something like Scott Pelley going off, first of all, I question whether or not they did a disclaimer about, like, journalists on board here. But I do wonder, does he hate half the country as much as he hates President Trump?
And looming over all this isn't just the merger, but Donald Trump's lawsuit. Back in November, he filed a $20 billion lawsuit against 60 Minutes, alleging an interview with Kamala Harris was deceptively edited. CBS itself had said the suit is without merit, but the network nevertheless seeking to settle as Paramount pursues this merger with Skydance. Now, a few weeks ago, the chief executive of CBS News stepped down. Wendy McMahon cited disagreements with Paramount. And days later, the Freedom of the Press Foundation threatened legal action if Paramount settles with Trump over 60 Minutes interview. Our guest today is from that very organization, Caitlin Vogus, a senior advisor for advocacy. Hello to you, Caitlin. Thank you so much for joining us here on Scoop. Your organization's previously said that Trump's complaint against CBS is a violation of the First Amendment. Could you explain that, please?
Sure. Thanks for having me.
The Supreme Court has been very clear that the First Amendment protects news outlets' right to make editorial decisions. So to make decisions about what they will and won't print, to make decisions about how they edit interviews. And that is exactly at the heart of Donald Trump's $20 billion lawsuit against CBS. He's complaining that he didn't like the way that 60 Minutes edited its interview with Kamala Harris. But that's squarely within the protection of the First Amendment, according to case law that dates back to the 1970s and has been reaffirmed as recently as last year. So legal experts have condemned the lawsuit as totally baseless and frivolous, and they're right, it is. There's no basis for it under the First Amendment. What 60 Minutes did is totally protected.
Yeah, and if it is frivolous, if there's no merit to Trump's lawsuit, what's behind it?
Well, Trump is mad that he doesn't like the way that Harris was portrayed in the interview. He's mad at the media in general. He's made no secret of the fact that he hates journalists. He hates the independent press. He speaks very critically of them. He's gone after 60 Minutes for its reporting about him, not just the Harris interview, but other reporting. And he's even threatened to file other defamation lawsuits against them because they report the truth and they report critically on what his administration is doing. And to Trump, that's a threat. He doesn't want the American people to know the truth about what he's up to. He wants to be the sole spokesman. But that's why we have a free press in the United States, to speak truth to power and to reveal the truth.
Yeah, and what allows the Freedom of Press Foundation to seek damages? Why are you threatening this legal action?
We've said that if CBS's corporate owner Paramount settles this frivolous lawsuit, we will file a shareholder derivative lawsuit. That's a type of lawsuit that allows shareholders to sue a company for the wrongful or improper acts of its executives or board of directors. And my organization, Freedom of the Press Foundation, is a shareholder of Paramount. And so we see this totally frivolous lawsuit, and yet Paramount is considering settling it. And the reason is because the executives there want to line their own pockets. They stand to financially benefit from it, but we think a settlement would be extremely damaging to the company, damaging to CBS News in a business sense, and both in the sense of its credibility and damaging to press freedom. And so we've threatened this lawsuit. If it goes forward and monetary damages were awarded, what happens in a shareholder derivative lawsuit is all of those damages go back to the company. So we wouldn't see a cent. It would go all back to Paramount and CBS, hopefully in order to fund their news and to fund 60 Minutes and what it's doing well.
Yeah, and if this settlement is tantamount to bribery, that would be a big story in and of itself. But back in February, the Wall Street Journal broke the story that some Paramount executives were already afraid about the liability for settling, and so they were anticipating this possibly. So it does seem like they're aware of that at least.
Yes, they are aware. There's been reporting on that, and they should be very aware after just recently 3 U.S. senators sent a letter to Paramount saying that settling this case could possibly be tantamount to bribery. And in addition to that, the state of California has also suggested that it may open an investigation, because Paramount is based there, into whether settling a lawsuit like this would be bribery. So there are multiple officials who are ringing the alarm bells about this. Legal experts are, press freedom watchers are. It's something that Paramount executives should be very aware of and should be thinking about when they're considering whether they want to move forward with settling Trump's lawsuit.
Off air, 60 Minutes' Leslie Stahl spoke to Donald Trump a few years back, saying you're going in so hard on the press. And Trump had said, this was his playbook, essentially. He attacks the press over and over. That way, when any outlet is critical of him, his supporters won't buy into it.
That's right. And we've seen that happen not just with 60 Minutes and CBS, but also with other news outlets. So Trump also famously banned the Associated Press, which is a wire service, from the White House press pool. The Associated Press is extremely well respected. It provides news to newspapers around the country. It's been a member of the press pool since the press pool was first founded, and yet Trump kicked them out. And the reason is because he wants to discredit the media. He doesn't want people to believe journalists when they report critically on his administration.
And a lot of other examples, too, of course, the Washington Post, ABC, Voice of America, NPR. It seems like with each passing day, each passing week, there's another media company to add to that list.
Yes, there is. And it's extremely disturbing. I think we are at a low point or approaching a low point when it comes to press freedom in the United States. Luckily, the law is still on the side of news outlets. We have a very strong protection for press freedom in the First Amendment, but we need news outlets to use it, to use the First Amendment to fight back. And some of them are. So ABC settled its lawsuit with Trump. CBS may settle its lawsuit, but others like the AP have filed lawsuits. So have our public broadcasters, National Public Radio and PBS, as well as the Des Moines Register, another outlet that Trump has gone after. So all of those news outlets that are fighting back, they're doing the right thing. They're standing up for press freedom and for the First Amendment and for the public's right to know.
Yeah, and if you read some of the financial articles about this, they make it sound like this lawsuit is going to be settled. If it is, Caitlin, where does that leave CBS? Where does that leave 60 Minutes?
I think it will be extremely damaging to CBS and to 60 Minutes if the lawsuit settles. As you mentioned in your introduction, we've already seen high-profile journalists depart CBS News and depart 60 Minutes because of this lawsuit and the potential that Paramount might settle it. And that really hurts the program. It hurts the credibility of CBS. If Paramount settles this because its executives want to get a payout from a merger, how can viewers trust that CBS will go forward reporting the news independently, free of favor or fear, and telling the public the truth about what's going on in the administration?
Yeah, and Caitlin, it bears reminding our viewers, Donald Trump's only been in office since January. We call journalism the fourth estate, a pillar of functioning democracy, but can the press, can the industry withstand another 3.5 more years?
The press is going to have to fight to withstand another 3.5 years. It's going to be a difficult battle, but yes, I think that the news media absolutely can. Journalists absolutely can. Journalists are tenacious. They are used to government officials pushing back, maybe not exactly in the ways that Trump has done and as harshly as the Trump administration has done, but they know how to fight back against these. They know how to use the First Amendment. And we've seen increasingly news outlets are finding their spine and are realizing, no, we have to stick up to Donald Trump because they're seeing the playbook that he's using against other organizations, universities in the United States, law firms in the United States. Initially, those organizations also caved to his demands, but they realized that caving doesn't get you anywhere. It just gets you more attacks. It just emboldens Trump even more. And I think the press has been watching that. And many outlets are realizing the only chance they have to survive the next 3.5 years is to fight back strongly.
Caitlin, a very good point. Thank you for your time. Caitlin Vogus from the Freedom of the Press Foundation. Thank you. Now, amid Trump's attacks on journalists and what's perceived as corporate capitulation, 60 Minutes correspondent Leslie Stahl addressed the vulnerability of the press, telling the New Yorker, quote, "The pain in my heart is that the public does not appreciate the importance of a free and strong and tough press in our democracy. We are a headache, an expensive headache, and that's part of the fragility." That's it for this edition of Scoop. Thank you for watching, and please stay tuned to France 24.